Welcome to the latest OmniTalk Ask an Expert series. I'm your host, Ann Mazinga, one of the founders of OmniTalk, a content platform dedicated to researching and talking to the people, the companies, and the technologies that are shaping the future of retail. We are coming off the heels of Black Friday and Cyber Monday. And one of the major headlines that we've been hearing is concerning all of you is the retailers that are exposed to smash and grabs, to these giant crime rings that are coming in and stealing a ton of merchandise at once. But what we find really interesting is that people haven't been paying as close attention to the unseen, the transactions that are happening that are fraudulent, that are happening with online stores, that aren't visible, that aren't stealing the headlines. And so we wanted to bring in back from Signifyd our expert, senior vice president of operations and corporate development, Bennett, to come to us today to talk about what retailers are seeing over the course of Black Friday and Cyber Monday. Bennett, welcome to the show. We got a lot to talk about today.
We do. It's been a crazy season, and absolutely thrilled to be back.
Yes. Well, okay. Listeners cannot forget our last episode. It was one of my absolute favorite. But in case this is the first time that they're meeting you, can you tell us a little bit about Signifyd and about your role there?
Absolutely. So Signifyd is a provider for a series of services that allow customers like Walmart or eBay, or if you're on Shopify, to know what to do with a particular customer in context. So should I let this person open an account? Should I sell this person this Samsung phone? Should I allow this person to do a return? This person is claiming that they never received the sofa. Should I fight them, or should I let them do it? So we help some of the largest retailers and mom and pops make decisions about how to have the best customer lifetime value.
And explain a little bit what you do specifically there. Like, what's your role, Bennett? What switches are you flipping up and down, and what are you doing at Signifyd specifically? Because you have a unique role.
I do have a weird role. That's fair. And that's why
I said unique, not weird, just for the record.
Fair. My word, not yours. So my role is conceptualized as anything to do with building expertise and client-facing consulting for Signifyd. So in my prior life, I was a consultant. I started my own company, and then I was an attorney for a while. And so what we've tried to build at Signifyd is a payments and e-commerce consultancy in all of our orgs that touch our clients. So I work with customer success, the folks that are on the front lines, helping our customers achieve that. I have our business intelligence folks. So like the data, when we process hundreds of transactions in a second and thousands of transactions in a minute, I'm there like, yes, the system is working, right? Like we're 6 times Shopify in terms of volume, over Black Friday, Cyber Monday at the peak. And, we're rivaling some of the payment networks in terms of volume. So it's a lot of data. So that's one of my favorite parts about talking about this, because I'm a data geek. And then I have some ops and legal stuff, which not super relevant to this group, but yeah,
but kind of a superpower of all things e-commerce right now. I mean, from, like you said, from Shopify retailers all the way up to some of the major top 100 retailers in the country. So you mentioned you're a data geek, and I'm gonna get into that because your team just came out with some research about Black Friday and Cyber Monday results. Mm-hmm. I'm curious, like, as a data geek, what were the things that you were planning on seeing coming out of this? Like, what were you expecting to see in the report?
Yeah, we're thankfully at a size of a company now where we're starting to try to predict and as opposed to just measure. So I actually hopefully have a good answer for you this year, whereas 2 years ago maybe I wouldn't. So what we were expecting was a new influx in new users to the channel. So mostly younger folks and older folks on the end of the spectrum, more wealthy individuals. And so what we've actually seen is, starting in September, wealthy Americans and Europeans have started opening up their wallets on spend the way that they really hadn't. And so if you've tracked the savings rate or kind of the spend on housing, like Americans collectively save like $2 trillion more than they were expected to. And some of that cash, people are like, I haven't bought new yoga pants in 18 months. Maybe I should
Right.
get some new yoga pants, right? And so we were like, okay, cosmetics, athleisure, apparel, luxury, all of these categories, electronics, they're going to have a banner like breakout. That's kind of what we saw, like younger people who want the newest phone, older, more affluent people who have been like, you know what, I've sat through a couple of recessions. I'm going to wait this one out. They finally started opening up their pocketbooks, and that's what we saw a lot from that perspective. We expected to see a lot of, I like the phrase of gift now, pay later, which I thought was pretty clever. Whoever came up with that one, and we're seeing a lot of that, especially from the Zoomers, so to speak.
And the buy now, that's so buy now, pay later, where people are doing installment financing. They're opening up their wallets, but they're not going to put it all on one credit card bill in October or November.
Well, so this is good. And so we're starting to think like, gosh, I call it a tale of three cities. Like it's like three types of consumers generally in the US, and then three types of retailers. So you have older affluent folks who have like never been in the e-commerce omni-channel. Then you have younger folks that in general use buy now, pay later more often. And then you have this kind of like sweet spot of like people who have been very comfortable with e-commerce, and they might like shop somewhere on Monday, somewhere on Tuesday, somewhere on Wednesday, somewhere on Thursday, and they're just like, I don't care anymore. Like I buy everything online. And those are kind of three key demographics. There are of course more, but like those are ones that like people should be trying to capture of like, I want as many, if you're selling the right good, I want as many wealthy people, first-time buyers to come to my site, have an excellent experience, and then turn them into repeat customers. I want to protect my core market, and I have to figure out the younger audience, right? Like from that perspective.
So that presents a significant challenge though for retailers, like we were talking about earlier. I mean, you have so many new customers. The stakes are so much higher. You have to give them a good experience or they won't be back. They have tons of options here. What have you guys been seeing retailers do in order to get themselves ready and to, increase the number of positive experiences that their customers are having, allowing the right people to come through?
Yeah, it's a great and interesting problem, because you have to roll out the red carpet the first time the right way, right? And you don't want to, speaking of smash and grabs, like the metaphorical equivalent is you roll out the red carpet and then like let the smash and grab teams onto your site to just go crazy.
Right.
So you're paying to bring the traffic to your site. So it's just such a nightmare. And so people more and more are adopting machine learning experiences. One of the largest retailers in the world moved from a team of literally hundreds of human beings to try to keep up with the volume to using us only to make every single decision automated. And like when you look at the volume, it's like literally hundreds of cases a second. It's just staggering how many decisions you have to make. You have to adopt things like machine learning. You have to, in order to keep up with the volume.
Is it even possible for retailers to have teams to support this? I mean, I should say to have human teams that are supporting this without machine learning and
other IR 100. I don't think it is, because this gets to one of the three cities about like of retailers, right?
Yeah.
So you have folks of like, who still has a really big Black Friday, Cyber Monday, like holiday spike? The largest retailers do. Target, Walmart, right? Like these folks that can throw marketing dollars at the folks to bring them in. They know what they're doing. Their marketing departments are on it. If you're on Shopify merchants don't have the money to compete for Black Friday, Cyber Monday sales.
Right.
They've brought all of those earlier. And so perversely, like the biggest retailers have kind of like become obsessed with like having really, really like, this is our holiday period, right? Like we're going to have crazy volumes, and they do have crazy volumes. And so if you say, okay, well, my volume is going to literally be 50x, 100x what it might be in a normal day, you can't staff to that. Right. And you can't staff and train and then also train down people in order to do that. So no, I think the spike for the largest ones has remained. And so that volume, what we saw 19 to 20 to 21 is the largest of the retailers kept kind of that spike, that same curve. And then the rest of the folks kind of smoothed out the curve. And they're like, hey, buy from us on November 1st,
Right.
buy from us on October 15th. Make sure you
Right.
get your shipping. I've seen tons of folks. And this is continued for, of course, I mean, Christmas is right around the corner. And what we're seeing is smaller retailers are saying you have to not get your last order in by December 15th. You have to get it in by December 9th, right? From that perspective, like they're just bleeding forward of like that period. So I think that to answer, that was a long way to answer your question of no, I don't see how the largest retailers do. And then folks who are maybe smaller volumes have figured out ways to kind of smooth out their curve in arguably healthier ways, right? From that perspective for inventory management, et cetera.
Well, and I think that something you pointed out too, and what you just said is that, this extended this year. And I think part of that might be due in part to Amazon doing Prime Day in
100%.
October. And
100%.
in reality, I think what retailers really need to be paying attention to is that these spikes that you're talking about, they have the potential to happen at any time. I mean, Amazon in theory could do Black Friday any time of the year now that they want to. So these periods of time that were once dedicated to Black Friday and Cyber Monday could be something that you realistically as a retailer need to be prepared to happen at any time. That, and I would say, this increase in online orders and in curbside orders, like none of that's going away. So this isn't a problem that you can just put a Band-Aid on for a temporary period of time, the holidays or, the 6 to 8 weeks that typically retailers would prepare for. Is that, I mean, do you think that's, I'm on the right page there, or are you thinking that, there's a way for retailers to handle this differently?
I think that I'll speak broadly. There are, of course, folks that, jewelry merchants, right? Like, of course, like let's set aside folks that have different seasonality or where you have to have like a New Year's kind of like diamond, whatever the case may be. Let's set aside those for a moment. Folks that can, the people who I see in our client base and across the e-commerce world that are succeeding have used COVID to break out of the mold. They're like, hey, let me ask some basic questions. How do I get more people with promotions in a healthy way that's where I'm not competing? Right. Maybe I launch something in March. Maybe I launch something in July. Let me ride the coattails of Amazon and like shopping online whenever I can, but let me do my own thing too, right?
Yes.
And so I think that that thinking is very important. Those who have a storefront are thinking like, I have to have omni-channel in a way because that's what people want, but like, let me do it in a smart way where like, maybe that's my return hub so that my return experience can be really good. And let me partner with FedEx and Walgreens so that I can compete like with that perspective. It's like, how do I economically, and economically is the key word, compete with what I'm going to do with Amazon? And if I can't, just tell the customer, hey, right? Here's when it's going to happen. I think last time I didn't have this couch. I don't think last time I had.
That's a new edition.
Okay. Well, it's a March edition. So I ordered this couch in March. I'm not. The retailer will remain nameless, but it was supposed to be delivered in September. Okay, September 25th, my partner called and they're like, "What couch?" Oh no.
Not good. Oh, no. Not a good thing you want to hear.
Not a good customer experience. And then they were like, "Oh, we found the couch." And then they were like, we called one more time and like, "Oh, 4 guys will be by to deliver it on Thursday. Is that okay?" And it's like the couch went from not even existing in the system to being delivered like 2 days late. Goodness, do I care if it's 2 days late? I've been waiting for 6 months. I understand. Just communicate.
Just tell me when it's going to be there. Yeah,
100%. Set my expectations right. And I think that the folks that are able to do that have had a much better customer experiences. And you can't keep up with Amazon. That's a fool's errand, right? So you have to think about, what can I control? What can I offer in terms of automation, in terms of speed, in terms of seamless? And then what else do I communicate and set expectations for?
Absolutely. Yeah. The transparency is critical right now.
Absolutely. Yes. Absolutely. Yes.
So Bennett, last time you were on the show, you said something that was so astute, and I love it. I still think about it today, and that is that the fear of loss is most
Oh,
acute when the volume spikes. Now,
yeah.
given what we've just been talking about, given this idea of retailers paying more attention to the smash and grabs that are happening in the physical store,
Yes.
let's talk a little bit about what Black Friday and Cyber Monday meant in terms of the potential for loss. Like, what were retailers up against with, the challenges of fraud coming into these online experiences, these buy online, pick up in store experiences, and what are they looking at as we kind of go forward into 2022 that they should be prepared for?
Yeah, so I'll answer that in two ways because I think the omni-channel, like buy online, pick up in store, we actually have I'll start there. We have a neat use case with one of the largest international retailers where we do scan and go for them now.
Okay. Love
And
it.
so you literally like are in the store, checking out, scanning like with your mobile app, and then you pay in a card not present environment while in the store. It is a beautiful customer experience. People love it. I
I'm
mean,
sure.
it rivals Whole Foods, right? Like just to put a name
Sure.
on it. And so people love it. It's a fraud attack vector. You're talking about smash and grab. It's like people who are like walking your aisles, like they're just buying stuff. They just stole somebody's credit card before they came in the store.
Right.
So like it's a much safer smash and grab. I guess would be the way that I talk.
Right, right. It's out in the
Yeah.
open. You're not,
Yes.
there's no
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
smashing and grabbing. You're just
Yes.
grabbing it.
Yeah. Beautifully said. Yeah. Just grab and go. So yeah, I think that so that fear led this particular retailer to work with us of like, okay, like we have to enable this experience. Like, what is the escalation path for that? Like Signified says, no, the person's there, like trying to check out, and then they have to go somewhere to like to customer service to like have their payment checked. Oh my gosh, like if you don't deliver on that promise for the right person, the
Oh
stakes are
yeah.
so high, right? The
Yeah.
stakes are so high. So I love that example. And there was fraud. There was a fraud ring that attacked that particular retailer. We offer a guarantee, so we handled that from that perspective, and then we worked with them to figure it out. And now it just works beautifully, right, from that perspective. So I think more people are going to bleed the online card not present in your actual store. Forget buy online, pick up in store.
Right.
That's old hat at this point. It's not old hat, but to me it's old hat.
Right.
And more people should do it because customers love it. But like being able to check out yourself while
Right.
going through the store and kind of seeing it, it's like the best of all worlds. Like I don't have to talk to anybody. I don't have to wait at like the concierge. Like
Yes.
the returns are good. Like it's just a really beautiful shopping experience. So there's that. And then the piece with the online is like you put together like, hey, my inventory is low.
Mm-hmm.
I have to make sure that everything that I sell is to a real customer. I don't want it going to a reseller. So we actually see a fear of like, it's a hoarding mentality, right? It's like I have 5 couches. I have 10 king, like premium white sheets. Those have to go to my new customers, right?
Exactly.
That are going to come back to me and not go to some third-party reseller or to, God forbid, to Amazon. Like from that perspective, you have to build that customer experience. And so we actually see people like caring a lot more about getting their goods in the hands of their end users, as opposed to like fear of fraud, like from that perspective, fraud with a capital F, right? From like financial fraud, right?
Right.
And
that's so interesting. I wouldn't have even thought about it, but it makes so much sense. It's almost like, who do we have the best case? Like which customer is going to have the best end experience with this product, and how do we prioritize them? 100%. And you definitely can't do that with human beings. Like there's no way that you could do that. That's
no
deep into like nerding out machine learning that would be able to tell you that returns, like what their return score is and how that factors in. Like that's amazing.
Yeah, it's a super fun problem to solve because it flips the conversation to customer lifetime value so beautifully and simply when you're like, I have to bounce people, right? Like I have an exclusive like, event. Okay, well, I have to have a bouncer out front. Like I want to make sure the right clientele get inside. I think
virtual velvet rope. Yeah, I love it.
Yes, and you have to then, I like that because then it forces you to ask like, who is my best customer, right? I think a lot of retailers are doing a lot of soul searching right now, which is good, right? The COVID times were crazy. It's like, just sell anything that we have. And now it's like, no, let's sell the right things so that we, to the right people, so that we can, get this flywheel going. Some of the more other like kind of attacks that people are very much seeing. I don't know how many spam texts you've been getting lately. A bunch. Yeah, I totaled it up. I get one a day, which is, I don't know, a 70. It's a 70 fold and fold or something from what it was a year ago.
Yeah.
And I'm one of those people who's like, AT&T fix this, right? And I like send every single one, and I'm like, here they are, here's their number, shame them, get them out of the network. And I get calls. I have a New York phone number from when I did Teach for America in the Bronx, so I could call my students' parents, and I just never updated it. So I get these hilarious calls from like New York City with like something urgent, and I just love. I mean, I'm a fraud and a data nerd, but so much of it is social engineering. So I'll take the calls and I'll hear them, and I'll like, let's talk about like what you're talking about and how are you going to try to scam me right now? And then, because this is what we see is like 250% increase in socially engineered takeover via SMS.
Oh my gosh.
And so it's like, it's again, like everything is old is new again. So it's just botting and it's just phishing, but it's phishing on your phone. And for some reason, it's very successful. And so we see a ton of compromised devices. We see a ton of compromised financials and accounts. And so that makes it really hard for retailers, right? Because you're saying, hey, I'm hoarding,
right?
Because I have this inventory. I have to make sure I get it, but I get it to the right people. This is an account that's been with me for 3 years. This is a good account. I have some device level tracking on my site that's always saved me before. It's the same device. You don't get they're masking their proxy. And then all of a sudden, this good customer has been totally spoofed and they steal for the holidays. And it's a really big order because lots of people want to gift things, right?
Yeah,
and
it's not unusual.
It's not unusual, and they have good history. And it's fine that they're shipping to lots of different addresses because they're buying gifts. It's like a nightmare scenario. Like with that, it's you Trojan horse your own system inadvertently. So that we're starting to see people kind of wake up. And I've had many retailers come to me and be like, we just got hit this holiday season. We had no idea. It was like, these were good accounts. I think that is a very, it's a very hard problem to solve, if impossible on your own without a network of data.
It's absolutely true, Bennett. And I think you're also going to start to see a demand from customers for, having this protection as online orders are increasing, as people are, like you said at the beginning of the show, you have those tale of three cities where you have three different new customers that are all shopping. And how are you serving me best? The transparency between retailer and customer is going to increase. So, are you set up as a retailer to be able to provide them that information to give them the best experience possible? Anything else that we missed, Bennett, in your coverage that you think people should know about that we didn't talk about yet?
Let's see. I think the one thing that's super interesting to me is, and Signify doesn't touch this specifically, but I've had so many people talk to me about it. I think we'd be remiss to not talk about it, is staffing shortages and kind of difficulty in employing. You asked like, hey, can you staff up to even do this with human beings?
Right.
I don't know if you follow Reddit. It's a vice of mine.
Yes.
But the anti-work subreddit is the fastest growing subreddit, and has incredible, I think Vice did a piece on it as well. But there's just lots of people are not willing to work in retail under the old kind of piece of exchange. Like, hey, like here's exactly what we do. Like, this is a retail, God forbid, like service, right? From that perspective, it's very, very difficult. That's a common thing. And so what we've seen is things that used to be, oh, we'll just staff and we'll train, right? Like that's just not the case anymore. Like it's not as economical to have a human force that is English speaking, native accent, like quality. Like that's becoming very prohibitively expensive for most average order values. in e-commerce. And so I think that's something that would be interesting, and that then it really exacerbates the physical side of the house though, right? Because it's still the larger side. And so that means even more people will have relatively bad customer experiences in store, which will further accelerate online buying. So we're seeing kind of a flywheel of, McKinsey had some, okay, well, COVID did this to the growth rates, and then like, where are we in the, in the V of like growth afterwards? We're solidly above the median projection of growth for e-commerce. And I think that, the Omicron variant and like the staffing shortages and kind of like just, I think all of the people saying like, oh, it's just going to be a COVID bump. It's a COVID bump. It's a COVID bump. I think we're past that now. Probably most of the folks that even the e-commerce naysayers have kind of said, okay, yeah, no, this is a real thing now. So
I could not agree more. Plus, I think you see all these people who are going back into store. Your point is so brilliant that, people are not going to go back into the store the same way that they went back in the store. They aren't waiting in lines. They want your scan and go experience. And retailers are going to have to figure out, how do I get this new customer? It's a brand new customer, even though they've been with you for so long. The last couple of years has trained them to expect different things. They're not going to put up with poor experiences in the store. So you're going to have to continually invest in the technology and the resources in order to serve this new experience for them. Bennett, every time we talk to you, something like I have like 15 crazy like head explosion emojis coming out. People, I'm sure, are going to want to follow up with you to get more into more specifics. I know you can kind of detail those for anyone that wants to reach out, get the Pulse report that you just put out on Black Friday and Cyber Monday. How do they get in touch with you and with Signifyd? Where should they go?
Yeah, so they can send me an email directly if they want. It's just Bennett, my surname, at signifyd.com. And then signifyd.com/pulse is where we post our up to the week data. It's verticalized, it's segmented. We work in all worldwide regions except for mainland China. So we have probably some interesting data for your business.
Yes.
And so if that's of interest to you, then we can talk about that. And yeah, we love consulting, in case that wasn't clear. And by consulting, I mean, let's just chat. So
yeah. Let's do it. Yeah, you have the best data nerd, self-proclaimed, on the planet to help you dig into this, who will sit on the phone with scammers and just try to figure out their scam. You are on top of it, Bennett. You could not ask for more from a partner. Thank you so much again. This was Bennett, the Signifyd Senior Vice President of Operations and Corporate Development. And to all our listeners out there, be careful out there.